Finger Island, how are you? Hope you're well. We'll soon see you, I'm sure, and we'll interact with you. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Business Victor Harbour's first major event for 2023 called A Roadmap to Workplace Wellbeing. Before I get started, I'd like to do Welcome to Country, and because we are going by YouTube and also by Zoom, I'm going to do a general welcome to country because mentioning all the countries might be very difficult and very challenging. And indeed, we're probably because we're being live streamed, who knows who's picking us up from around the world. So let's go. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Thank you. Also, just a bit of housekeeping for today. For those who are in the room physically, to my right are the conveniences, ladies and men's. And if there is an emergency, we have to exit where it says exit, the exit signs in green, to my right and one to my left. And if you're in the kitchen, which you shouldn't be in the kitchen, but if you are, you need to egress from that particular door, which is at the back of the kitchen. And then we meet and congregate, not on the cricket pitch, because I see there's flags around there at the moment. Looks like there's a big game on in the weekend. So make sure we meet out in the middle of the oval. I'd like to also welcome today our member for Finnis, David Basham. Thank you for attending. I'd also like to acknowledge our board members today. We have Michael Schubert, our chair. We also have Kirsty Pittman, our deputy chair. Mark McLaren, our chair of our governance. Sorry about that, Mark. And we also have Sang Din, who is our chair of our finance committee. There's no other board members here, I don't think, but we've certainly had a couple of apologies from our board. And they wish us all the best today in this journey. Now I'm just going to digress for 1 second, and I'm going to do a little bit of a... People are saying, what is that all about? Well, guess what? It's St. Patrick's Day. All right, so that was my Irish jig. I'm wearing green and green socks. So doing my bit of green. I see Specsavers are here doing their bit of green today, which is great. And I've noticed some people in the audience who have green on today, so thank you very much indeed. So happy St. Patrick's Day and the luck of the Irish. So what I'd like to do now is just talk about today. So what we're doing is a workshop, if you like, a very interactive workshop, and we're looking at the what, the why, and the how of workplace wellbeing. And I'll talk a little bit about that later after some of our guests have spoken. But it's the what, the why, and the how of workplace wellbeing. And it's very important that we observe that during the day, and we'll connect that up. And we have some fantastic speakers here today. This is a huge event for Victor Harbour. It's a huge event for South Australia, actually. We're pretty proud of this. To have all the key agencies here in this one room is pretty amazing to get this to happen. So thank you to all the guest speakers that are here today and the commitment that's been taken to get us together. Thank you also to Julie Irwin, our membership officer, who has done a superb job in getting all this together and getting the venue together. Thank you to the Roos Footy Club. Whose team won last night, the AFL? Obviously no one, it was a draw. Hello. Yeah. But thank you to the Roos Footy Club. A great little spot here, great venue. And I'm sure we'll be using this facility down the track with some other events. This is the workforce planning series we're running this year. This is the first part or first component of that. We're running several workforce planning events, which are fairly major events. And again, we have some pretty powerful people, iconic people, who are going to be attending and speaking at those events. So it's pretty exciting for our calendar this year. So without any further ado, I'd like to call on Michael Schubert, our chair, and just before he comes on, just to let you know, there's some of the support services that are here today. I also have to mention Beyond Blue. Where's Andy? Right down here. Amazing. It's come all the way from Melbourne to be here in South Australia and in Victor Harbour in the Fleurieu Peninsula. Well done, Andy, and well done to Beyond Blue. Thank you for being here. I'd now like to call on my chair, Michael Schubert, who'll officially open the program. Thank you, Michael.
So good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to our event today, a roadmap to workplace wellbeing. I'm Michael Schubert, the Chairman of Business Victor Harbour, and it's my privilege to welcome today's speakers who will be guiding us on a journey towards a healthier and happier work environment. Mental health conditions in the workplace can have a huge impact on productivity, with statistics showing that there's a 500% return on every dollar spent supporting mental health conditions in the workplace. So that translates to a $2.50 return on every dollar invested. So it does make it one of the most cost-effective investments that any business can make. We're excited to announce the launch of our unique and tailored program for business owners, as Colin mentioned earlier. These specially designed events have been created with input from our members and our annual business survey. So our next event, starting on March the 30th, attendees can take advantage of educational opportunities with our cyber security event, followed by an informative circular economy event in May, plus a workshop focusing on cyber risks happening in June. So we encourage you to come and join us for these valuable sessions, and we look forward to seeing you there. Our incredibly generous sponsors make events like these possible, and with today's event proudly sponsored by ReturnToWorkSA, our first ever gold sponsor, please join me in thanking them for their invaluable contribution. So thank you for joining us this morning for an information and invigorating journey, and get ready for a mind-stimulating morning of insights. And thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I forgot to mention my name. My name is Colin Shearing. I am the Executive Officer of Business Victor Harbour, so for those who don't know me. Thank you again for that, Michael, and pretty amazing statistics you come out with there with mental health and the improvements we can make in the workplace. So what I'd like to do now is officially welcome Glenn Fox. Glenn Fox, before I do, I said I was going to talk about you last night at dinner. Glenn is he's a local. He lives at Encounter Bay, so it's fantastic to have Glenn along. Glenn manages a workplace consultancy service for ReturnToWorkSA, assisting employers with workplace safety, health and wellbeing. His team also supports programs across the state focused on healthy workplaces, young worker safety, that's me, younger people, respiratory disease, safety of labour hire workers, and aged care and home help. So Glenn, I welcome you here, but obviously it's in common ground, and thank you for coming along, and I'd like you to maybe say a few words for the gold sponsorship, and again, thank you for your contribution. Thanks, Glenn. Thank you. And with your tie.
Colin last night at tea said to me, I'm going to do something whizzy for you. And I'd sent him one single line about my bio, and I don't think he strayed one word from it. So buying him a glass of wine last night probably didn't do a lot of me good. The other thing he said was, bring a tie. So please acknowledge, I bought a tie. The other thing I did was put a pair of pants on that still had the size tag on it. So I've had some wonderful experiences already this morning as a local. The thing that made my day, to start with, was driving down to this venue, listening to Credence on the CD, and having a little jive while I was driving to bring a smile to my face. If every day we could bring a smile to people's faces, if they enjoyed working for us, if they were healthy at work, if we enjoyed our work and were healthy at work, our customers were the same. Businesses go from surviving to thriving, and that's a critical part. In the past, if I'd talked to you about workplace wellbeing, people would have said to me, don't be a sookie la la. What made the big difference was the last 4 or 5 years where we've started recognising that mental health is a significant issue for workplaces, and that unless we dealt with it appropriately, unless we made some changes to the way we thought as a business, we were going to have productivity problems, morale problems, staff turnover. At Return to Work, we were lucky enough to have Marty Webber come and join us. And Marty started the Healthy Workplace Advisory Service for Return to Work. I can share with you the journey that she went on that significantly changed the thinking in South Australia about mentally healthy workplaces. Marty's probably seen as the preeminent expert in this area and has done a substantially good job for workplaces. We just love her to bits. Thank you, Marty. She's been beautiful. But I think the time has come for us now to venture further into healthy workplaces. When we talk about workplace wellbeing, it's not about an apple on the lunchroom table. And it puts a challenge to business owners and business managers about the manner in which we'll engage with our people, we'll engage in areas that are uncomfortable at times about how they're going, we'll engage with our customers about their views about our business and our people. I was just talking to my wonderful electrical people earlier who send one of their young lads to work at my house. And I can tell you as a local, I couldn't be more proud to have them in my house because of the fact clean, tidy, respectful, professional, lovely. And even the boss comes to check up at my place sometimes. But that's the sort of community we want. And a healthy workplace contributes to a wider healthy community. And if we want Victor, the Fleurieu, Kangaroo Island to be vibrant, then we've actually got to make significant changes. So I commend the speakers to you today. Most importantly, what I hope is, as Fleurieu and Kangaroo Island businesses, that you take a couple of gems away and you turn them into reality. There's a simple saying, if you keep doing the same thing the same way, you get the same outcome. So it's lunacy to think we can't have a vibrant, healthy, thriving business. Just keep doing the things we're doing. What we have to do is change. If we can help through Return to Work, Wellbeing SA, SafeWork SA, Beyond Blue, and our other wonderful speakers today, what we'll find is that you will get the support to clarify why we do it, what we do, and how we do. And it's not so hard. It's just not something that we've talked about as a business community often enough. So thank you for the opportunity to come today. I didn't give a return to work speech. What I gave was what I hope is a passionate view about the way we can change business and the communities down here. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. A very passionate speech, and I'm sure everyone will get a lot out of it today. Just a couple of things. When he talked about practice, the reason why I'm wearing this tie is actually when the Irish men's hockey team came to South Australia, I managed that particular team, which was great for my sort of resume and profile and everything else, because that's one of my sports. And one of the players came up to me and he said, I just got to keep on practicing, you know, what I'm doing. And I said, well, yeah, you do, but it's not about practicing the way you're doing it, because if you do it the same way you're doing it, it's not going to work. I said, the issue is it's not, you know, practice makes perfect. It's perfect practice makes perfect. And he said, wow, that's the best thing you've ever said, and that's the best thing I've ever heard from a coach. And I said, well, actually, I'm not your coach, I'm your manager. But you know, that's something I think we can take away from today. Is that, yeah, you get the same result if you do it over and over again, but if you want to get a better result, you've got to make some changes. And also, the other bit I want to talk about is, you know, when we talk about workplace health, yes, a lot of people think about, well, you know, it's about, you know, your own health. It's the health of your business. It's about work health and safety. It's about how important is work health and safety from a physical perspective and from a psychological perspective. And under the work Health and Safety Act 2012. Quote me if I'm wrong, David Basham. That's the Act. That particular Act states very clearly that today, your training and education and information we're getting today is very important as part of the legislative requirements for you to continuously improve. That's really good, and particularly for the businesses here in the room, particularly the businesses here in Kangaroo Island as well, who are still in our room, I'm hoping you can hear us well over there. Just to let you know, you will get a statement of attendance that will come to you, we're hoping within the week, and we'll try and organise that. But this forms part of that compliance. So it's a very good session that we're in today, so you're getting some value out of it already. Anyway, so we'll get to the next part of the program. Before I introduce you to Andrew Dennis from Beyond Blue, the other bit I wanted to comment on was about how did everyone get here this morning? Did you travel by car mainly, or ride a bike or whatever? And Kangaroo Island, I'm sure a lot of the businesses over there travelled by vehicle. We often say, well, is there fuel in the tank or electricity? Is there oil? Are the wheels blown up? Not blown up, as in, are they airtight? Are they the right pressure? We talk about that thing pretty easily. And, the same with us. We need to actually check ourselves because that's what today is about. It's about not just us personally, but it's about that journey. Because if we don't get that vehicle right, we may not end up at our destination. In fact, I was speaking to Leah was speaking to me this morning from Department of Industry, Innovation and Science, and she said, I was travelling on the Alexandrina Road and all of a sudden I had to turn off because it was blocked for some reason. And she had to travel on dirt roads and everything else. She said, my God, I don't know whether I'm going to get here on time. But she did. But the point is that she had a reliable car that got her here. And fortunately, didn't hit a kangaroo along the way. But, early hours of the morning, no one on the roads. But you need to be aware that that vehicle, if we relate that back to our bodies and back to our workplace, is really important, and we often take it for granted. So that's what today's about. I'm hoping that people will take some, as Glenn said, some gems away from this particular session. And we've got a follow-up session happening on the 13th of April from here, which will be held at our office. And that will be for people in this room. And KI, you're quite welcome to attend if you'd like to get over to the mainland. We'll be following up on this particular session and helping those businesses work through one-on-one with Return to Work SA. And so that will be happening on the 13th of April. We'll mention a bit more about that later on. Okay, to Andrew Dennis, Beyond Blue. So one thing in my notes, I have to point out that Andrew is from Melbourne, so he's from Victoria. We won't hold that against you, Andrew, but welcome to today. And again, thank you for your commitment and your dedication to this particular area of workplace wellbeing. Andrew is the Wellness and Prevention Engagement Manager for Beyond Blue. Andrew is a wellness and prevention. Andrew is responsible for collaborating with stakeholders from across government and industry to build mentally healthy communities. Andrew has a particular focus on engaging the small business community through Beyond Blue's New Access for Small Business Owners program. Andrew has more than 10 years' experience supporting men with their mental health through stakeholder engagement and facilitation both in Australia and overseas. He possesses qualifications in law, communications and psychology. And also, we had a good chat last night, didn't we, Andrew? It was good having it over dinner at the Hotel Victor. I think what Andrew can offer us today is not only pearls of wisdom, but that other side. We've got a lot of focus at the moment, and sorry to be, this might sound a bit sexist, but I'm going to say it. We've had a lot of focus on women in workplace recently, and the other side to that is obviously the yin and yang, is the men's side. So I think that's great what you're doing, Andy, and again, I welcome you here to have travelled all that way from Melbourne, south of the border for us, and thank you, and I welcome you on board.
Thank you, Colin. What a very warm welcome. Thanks for having me, and thank you everyone for being here today. Yes, I have come from Melbourne, but I don't feel like it's too far away. I grew up in Warrnambool, so coming over the hill and driving down into Victor Harbour, I let out a big wow at the view and the lovely. I've been here for a short time, but I've had a lovely experience so far. Everywhere I've been, people I've met, so it's a real honour to be here. I've also worn some green today, so that was coincidental, but glad that I could make a reference point there to the special day and those celebrating in the room today. I guess to give you a bit of context as to why Beyond Blue is here today and what we're going to offer is probably three parts, and I'll come to it a bit later down the road, but really to offer some context setting, so some updates on what is happening in terms of mental health across Australia, but also for you in the room, we're going to be talking about your workplaces, and for you over in Kangaroo Island as well and online. We're going to be talking about how you can set up your workplace to be great for your teams and really look after the greater community, but we want to focus on you as well, and that's a big part of why I'm here today, to kickstart that. Let's focus on you in the room, and excited to be able to be here. I'll also acknowledge the acknowledgement of country and echo those, but I'd also like to acknowledge those in the room here, online, and over on Kangaroo Island who may have either their own lived experience with mental health or be supporting someone who has gone through some mental health difficulties. Very important to acknowledge that is something that can take a big toll on people, but that there's great work being done. And yeah, again, thank you for being here and caring so much to take the next steps on this road. I'll give you a quick little reminder of who Beyond Blue is. Beyond Blue is an Australian non-for-profit organisation whose vision is to help all people in Australia achieve their best possible mental health. We're Australia's most well-known and visited mental health organisation, and at the moment we've got three key priority areas for our strategy. So as you can see here, it's promoting mental health and wellbeing. Secondly, we want to contribute and continue to be a trusted source of information, advice and support. And finally, we're working together and partnering to prevent suicide. But I think it's also important to recognise who we're not. We're not on the ground. We're a big Australian organisation, and that's why we take events like this really, really seriously, and important that we get out and see what is being done in the communities. We're very thankful for Marty for organising for us to be here today, and it's people like Marty who are doing great jobs, and yourselves for coming along, learning about this stuff so you can be the ones in the community who can really make that change. In terms of, I guess, what we're looking at today, I mentioned this before, but at the beginning I'm going to give you a brief introduction about the key mental health concepts and community trends. I'll then step into small businesses and focusing on a particular small business support that you can offer yourselves, but also people in the community who may identify as small business owners or sole traders. And then we'll dive in to probably some more practical tools and resources for yourselves and for the people that you're working with. So let's dive in. In terms of some community trends that we at Beyond Blue have started to see, and to revisit some context setting, I want to start by introducing the mental health continuum. So it's important to note that when we're talking about mental health, we're not just talking about mental illness. Just like our physical health, our mental health exists along a continuum, ranging from thriving all the way up to having a severe impact. And we notice that this can change from hour to hour, day to day, week to week, month to month. So it's important to note that it's not static and that it can change, but that it can also be influenced and fostered. So poor mental health we know responds really well to treatment and support. And just like our physical health, our mental health can be nurtured and protected. You can see on this slide, we may revisit this a bit later on, but some of the personal signs for either yourselves or for your team members who may be displaying different signs along the way, from that thriving to severe impact and anywhere along the way. In terms of some statistics, it's important to acknowledge that mental health conditions are very common. So almost half of people in Australia will have a mental health issue at some point in their lives. 1 in 5 will have a mental health condition this year. 1 in 6 will experience suicidal thoughts or behaviours in their life. And as we mentioned before, tragically 9 people will take their lives each day. And again, to your point a moment ago, Colin, was that majority of those will be men. So it's important to acknowledge that that's a number that's much higher than the national road toll, and that there's important work that needs to be done across all levels to improve this. In saying that, seeing these statistics can be a bit confronting, but it's important to acknowledge that we've come a long, long way for mental health in Australia. So over the past 20 years, we've seen improvements in not only understanding, awareness, but also access to services. I think that's going to be something that we see today, the number of services that are out there and the supports that are available. And that's why it's important that we continue this journey, including a greater opportunities for prevention and those supports. At Beyond Blue, we like to talk about a bit of a concept that is helpful for understanding mental illness and supports. But we can all be in the same storm, but be on different boats. So if you look at this picture, you can see there a variety of different boats, the way they're constructed. Some are larger, others are smaller. Some are built with stronger materials, some less so. Some may have recently been through a storm and have a big team that they know how to navigate that storm. Some, it may be the first storm that they're facing. They all have different anchors, different capacities, and different experiences. What's important about this analogy is that we shouldn't generalise. Just because a boat might be a bit smaller, a bit older, a bit rougher, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't weather the storm well. They may have had that recent experience that has built their capacity and built their abilities to be able to navigate. So we shouldn't judge in that way. And it's also important for us to focus on the things that we can change and can influence. This includes mental health skills, our tools, building our capability for prevention, and helping people get useful resources and supports when they need them. This is another slide that may help in illustrating the point that to explore this concept a bit more, our mental health can be influenced by those broad range of factors and experiences. And the idea is that to promote mental health and wellbeing, we want to reduce hazards and build protections. So as you can see there, there's a number of those factors listed out about what those hazards might be and how those protections could be built. It's important to note as well that these factors operate at many different levels. So that's individual levels, so in ourselves, in our community, but also at structural levels. And that's why we believe organisations like Beyond Blue, the mental health sector, government and other related organisations play an important role in and focus to act across these areas. In terms of some recent community insights we'd like to share with you, this is, I guess, comes from Beyond Blue's unique role in being able to consult across the sector and access to research as well. We wanted to share with you some of the recent insights. So we know that community has moved on from COVID, but it's not bounced back as strongly as it would necessarily seem. So lingering fatigue is still happening, and we're also facing other challenges. So natural disasters, cost of living pressures, whilst there was a big sense of resilience that came from the COVID experience, now being faced with these new challenges is still a challenge. So interestingly, many people resort to these positive learnings that they had from their COVID, and that was mainly focused around their understanding of themselves, their values. There was some people who took that opportunity to reset and focus on either their career or their families, and putting relationships front and centre. We know that people have a better understanding of the mental health system. However, that stigma and self-exclusion are ongoing barriers, and people are looking for evidence-based ways to move their knowledge from understanding mental health to being able to step in and take actions, and they're wanting those actions. I believe breakfast will be served shortly, so if there's some rattling of plates, don't feel bad. Dig into breakfast. There you go, I've got the timekeeper here. So in terms of, I guess, to dive down on one particular insight recent that we've seen, and it's one that I'm sure many of you in the room will be well aware of, is the relationship between money and mental health. So new research that was released in September 2022 by Beyond Blue and ASIC has helped build the evidence base in Australia about the close relationship between money and mental health. And to provide you some of the key findings, people who are experiencing financial challenges are twice as likely to experience mental health challenges and vice versa. So experiencing greater rates of financial and mental health distress, there are other groups, key groups, that include First Nations people, women and young people, who are generally more affected in that area. Impacts of negative financial events also accumulate and compound over time, increasing the more often that they occur. And we know that there's a great level of stigma that's associated with both mental health, but also financial health, and that it's strongly present in the Australian community. In some instances, the stigma about poor financial wellbeing can actually be greater than the stigma around poor mental health. And we've got a video here that is going to just pull out some of these key insights and puts a bit of a face to these stories.
The best way that I think about it is people who aren't under financial pressure. It's like they're riding on their bike and the wind is blowing behind them and everything is possible and everything seems easy. And they don't really have a sense of what it's like for someone when they're riding against the wind.
When I talk to people about their financial struggles, the biggest thing that stands out to me is that we tie so closely our net worth to what our self-worth is.
It was 2001 that ASIC collapsed. So it was 2 months after 9/11. And at the time, I wasn't expecting it, I wasn't prepared for it, and it was definitely a shock. It was a shock to all of us, and within, I think a week, we were all signed up for the dole.
And it was particularly hard because we were quite comfortable financially. You know, we had a good house, we had a mortgage, but we were coping with it quite well. You know, had the kids and the whole bit. And then to lose literally everything, including your income, and to have virtually nothing except the clothes on your back and a small bag of personals was really, really hard.
Burnt through all my savings on basic rent and stuff, and ended up going into debt to my housemates because I couldn't sustain myself.
Finding a sense of motivation to actually get back into things can be quite hard. There's a lot of sort of negative self-talk, regret, guilt perhaps, sense of shame, there's a lot of these sort of things. So turning around those sort of thoughts can take a bit of time, and you need to be really gentle with yourself.
When people find out that there are options and there is help available, there is a sense of relief, and there is a sense of not feeling so alone in all of this, that there is help available, particularly that they're not going to be judged for the circumstances that they find themselves in.
The thing that I learned is when I'm going through difficulty, what is that difficulty? How is it affecting me? And what can I do to get myself out of that negative mental space?
And I knew that, this will pass, this too shall pass, And we went out for a walk and got out in the sunshine and...
The hardest thing is opening that first window, even if it's a little bit.
That is, you build that in them, that fight, and that it's amazing to watch people go from feeling so helpless and almost like a victim to being, I can do this, my life is going to change, it's going to be so much better.
So I think what this video portrays beautifully, we won't watch it again, is that there is, and the research actually highlighted, that there are some positives that came out from understanding this connection between money and mental health. And the main one being that a reduction in a hardship in a person's financial circumstances can lead to improvements in their mental health indicators, and also the vice versa. So acting on an individual's mental health can also improve their financial well-being. So the research also identified some turning points, and those are catalyst moments of change in somebody's circumstances to build upwards in the spiral. And these turning points were really moments of turning to gain support from friends and family, but also service providers. And for small business owners, we know that that is often business coaches or their accountant or other people in the business community. So that will shift beautifully to exactly why we've had a focus on small business. So you can see here the state of play for small businesses, and many of you will know these stats quite well and some of these reference points, but 97% of businesses in Australia are small businesses, with 64% of those being sole traders. We know that small businesses have unique challenges, and on average, there's higher rates of distress. So prior to the pandemic, around 1/3 of small business owners reported having higher levels of psychological distress, and we know that the last few years have been particularly challenging. So, for example, since the pandemic and the natural disasters that we've seen across Australia, research that was commissioned in 2022 by the Department of Treasury has now showed that on average 1 in 5 small business owners surveyed had been diagnosed with a mental health condition, and then in some industries that rose to 1 in 3. We also know that in semi-rural areas that's also much higher. What we also know is that smaller businesses have access to fewer mental health supports. So that's why services that are targeted at small business owners and small businesses is very, very important. Importantly, small business owners have different needs when it comes to accessing support. Over many years of consultation, Beyond Blue has heard key trends around mental health needs of small business community. And again, these may be not new to some of you in the room or online, but small business owners, we know, are time poor. They're a big part of communities, particularly in smaller regional areas. They're a huge part of regional communities. I guess a bit of background on myself, my father was a small business owner in Warrnambool, and I know that from my experience growing up and watching how important his role was, not only for our family and for his business, but to the wider community and the role that he played, added to some of those stresses, but was so important for the health of the community itself. Many will prioritise the business over themselves. I've heard that in some of the conversations I've had this morning, working long hours and not taking time for themselves or for their health. For small businesses, there's a great deal of self-stigma. So while they might be willing to support the mental health of their teams, the idea that themselves, that idea of accessing support themselves is very strong. We've seen that there's a desire to have a variety of flexible options, including online and over the phone services, which allow them to access support outside of their work schedules or their busy commitments. And many have expressed a frustration that the services that they have accessed in the past may not have understood the unique circumstances of their small business. So when a small business owner does need support, they will often reach out to a friend or a trusted advisor who understand their context for information, advice and support. And that's why we believe conversations today are so important, and that building that confidence about what supports are available is really the aim of these sessions. So today we're excited to share with you a range of different supports designed especially for small businesses. And the one I'm going to dive into now, you can see exists along this continuum at the at-risk or struggling phase. So this is a service that will help people who may be starting to feel those levels of distress rising, or be facing a bit of a challenge in their life or in their business. And the service that Beyond Blue offers is called New Access for Small Business Owners. It was launched in March 2021 with support from Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman and the Department of Treasury. The service was developed in response to feedback from small business owners and to give small business owners the support that they needed. The service is modelled on Beyond Blue's existing New Access program, which has been running since 2013 and has helped almost 16,000 people. New Access is essentially a treatment course of one-on-one sessions with mental health coaches who have been trained up in a type of self-guided therapy called low-intensity cognitive behavioural therapy. Coaches deliver this service, which has strong evidence-based, under clinical supervision. Now, one of the things that was so important when designing this was that taking on that feedback that when business owners had sought support in the past, they didn't feel like they were being heard or that their unique circumstances were being considered. So that's why the coaches have been specifically recruited to have a small business background that will not only allow them to apply practical approach to problem solving, but also understand the unique challenges that small businesses may face. We tried to minimise the barriers as well. So the program requires no doctor referrals, it's free and 100% confidential and available throughout Australia by telehealth with phone or video, and the service is available beyond extended business hours, so it can be accessed at times that suit the small business owners. In terms of eligibility, the service is available to people in Australia aged 18 years and over who own a small business with 20 employees or less, or they're a sole trader. And this is anyone who identifies as a small business owner or sole trader in that space. What's been really exciting is since the program has launched, we've seen a current recovery rate of 70%, which is a reduction below clinical levels of distress and a great outcome. You can see some other feedback and statistics there about the program, but I think I really like the last one there. So that's 86% said that they felt more productive in their business and able to address future business challenges. And I guess that shows sort of that preventative model of being able to get the care that you need, but also setting you up for future challenges. So we're deeply proud of the service at Beyond Blue, and this slide shows some of the feedback and comments from those who have used the program. We'd love your support in promoting the program within the community. If you know a small business owner who may need this level of support, it's a fantastic service, very confidential, free, and has really been designed for small business owners in terms of the feedback that they've provided. I want to now bring it back to some practical tools and actions, and I know this is going to be a great piece for what's coming up later this morning in terms of building your own plans. So pulling together some of these resources, and we're just one of the groups that you can come to for these resources. We're going to hear from a few more people today that are going to be able to really build that net of support, and you'll see that there is a lot out there to support you and the teams that you work with. So I guess before I dig into some practical tools, I think it's important also to just know that we are starting to see some real positives in terms of the change and the momentum around people taking care of their mental health. So latest data in Australia released in July last year showed that people are accessing mental health supports, and that around 3.4 million people in Australia are seeing a health professional for their mental health, which is great news. Over 60% of people are taking action to look after their mental health, including increasing their exercise, practicing positive thinking, and doing things that they enjoy. These trends are very, very positive, with more people talking about action for prevention and wellbeing. But the numbers also suggest that there's an opportunity to increase this action. People have moved from the understanding and the awareness, and they're now looking for these practical supports. So as I think the theme we sort of talked about earlier this morning was this idea that we can't pour from an empty cup. So as busy people who are working and play an important role for their teams, but also for their communities, we know that naturally you're going to be pouring a lot from your cup, giving back to the people that work for you or the communities that you're a part of. It's important to reflect, and you can see a few examples here of ways to fill up your cup, but knowing how you can do that on a day-to-day or a week-to-week, and being aware of where you might sit along that mental health continuum, but be able to do a few things. So to give you an example, I'll use myself. For me, I know connecting with family and friends is generally how I fill up my cup. I'm a bit of an extrovert, but really making sure that I'm getting that time when I'm starting to dip in terms of energy levels or general life enjoyment. That's where I will find it. I'm in a bit of a transitional phase at the moment. I've recently moved back to Melbourne. I started a new role. I'm 2 months into this role. So I'm juggling the new job, the transition back, and a bit of study on the side. So for me, setting boundaries has been a really important piece to be able to not only spend time with friends and family, those connections, but also succeed in my job and be able to also do some study and some socialising on the side. And I can also recognise now for me when I need to take action and seek further support. So whether that be a support service like New Access or building my own wellbeing plan, knowing when I need to step in and take those actions has been really important for me. So here are some helpful tools and resources that we'll share with you after the session today, or happy to move around the room and talk through some of these. But you'll see up here, there's the Workplace Wellbeing Plan, Individual Wellbeing Plan. That's a great one we'll step through a bit later on. But there's also so many, I think this slide just shows that there are so many resources that are out there. Another one is iBobbly Wellbeing app for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Black Dog have some great stuff. Ahead for Business is a great resource for business owners as well. And then in terms, if we were to drill it down into tools for you and these practical tools, Beyond Blue has a number of practical tools that offer support that is different supports available to reach people where they are. So we've got tools for the individual, to create for the workplace. We've got digital resources, including e-learning modules, which are 1 hour. We have a great e-module, e-learning over here that you can see. It takes about 1 hour to complete, but just builds your confidence around, understanding mental health. There's some tips for self-care, a guide to how to check in with an employee or a friend, and the supports that you are able to offer in that position. And I think what's great when I sat down and did that was just the confidence building and reassuring yourself that, stepping in and starting that conversation may not be the easiest thing to do, and there may be some discomfort there, but the idea of that e-module is to help build that confidence and that conversation. Of course, there's new access for small business owners, which we talked about before, and I guess that sort of brings us full circle in terms of some of those supports that are available. I think that's all I've got for you. I'll leave that up there as I wrap up. There's a QR code there that will take you directly to the New Access for Small Business Owners website, so you can get a bit more information, potentially submit an inquiry if it's something you're interested in. But I want to reiterate just my thanks for having us here today. Like I said, it's an important place for us to be out in the community and working alongside some great industry partners here in South Australia. And I think I've been in the role for 2 months, but I've been really blown away by the work that's being done in South Australia and the invitation and the active involvement of Beyond Blue in that I guess that role and how we can use what we have in terms of resources and support services to empower those in the community to have a great impact. So thank you for having me. Enjoy your breakfast, or keep enjoying your breakfast. It looks delicious, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you around the tables shortly. Take care.
Wow, thanks Andy, that was pretty inspiring, particularly that video. I thought I was taken by that, and so it certainly can relate to a lot of those issues personally. And it's great, like I said, to have Beyond Blue here, and knowing that there is a connection to South Australia with Julie Gillard being the chair. And I was talking to Andy last night about that connection with my former wife, who went to the same high school, so almost the same class too. So it's interesting. So again, thank you very much for your commitment here today and to be with us. Ki, can I cross over to you? Are you hearing us well over there and are you enjoying it? Can you speak?
We can now.
Right. Okay.
Yes,
fantastic.
Fabulous. Thanks, Colin.
Thanks for being here, and it's great to have this connection, through the internet, but also I think you've got around about 12 people in the room there. Is that right, or 10 or something?
Yeah, around about 10 to 12. Yep.
And the businesses are sort of broadly from. Maria Waters is the chair of Kangaroo Island Brand Business Alliance, KIBA, and we went across there, Michael and I, recently to KI. Would you like to just give us a breakdown of the sorts of businesses that are in the room, and if one of those or two of those businesses or all of them would like to have a quick say hello, they can.
Sure. Why don't we do that? Why don't we just do a quick round the room and everyone can just introduce themselves quickly with their businesses.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll start. Kelly, yep.
I'm Kelly. I'm from Kangaroo Island Council as WHS and Training Officer.
Yeah. I'm Monique and I'm from Kangaroo Island Support Coordination and Positive Behaviour Therapy.
Might have to use big voices, guys. Next.
Sharon from Landscape Board. Hi, I'm Beck. I'm from the Kangaroo Island Landscape Board School. I'm Catherine. I'm from the school, which I'm really grateful to be invited today to connect with people. I'm Glenys. I'm from Victor Harbour and working on Kangaroo Island at the moment.
Wow.
Renee?
I'm Renee. Run holiday accommodation, Emu Bay Holiday Homes.
Johanna Sider from Emmett, from Yedilla.
Wow.
Yeah, Mark Virgo, Kangaroo Island Council, Health and Safety Representative.
Riley Walters from Kangaroo Island Council.
Catherine Chaplin from Landscape Board.
Susie Whitehead, I'm the Chair of Kangaroo Island Tourism and also the owner-operator of a guest house.
Welcome, Susie.
That's all of us in the room.
All right, well, thank you. And just to make some other acknowledgements, thank you very much indeed. And please feel free, if you want to say something over on Kangaroo Island, we're treating you as being in the room, please do so. I'd like to also pay my kindest respect to Janie. Is Janie here? Janie from Koa Photography. Janie is doing the Victor Harbour brand photography commissioned by Business Victor Harbour. She's doing a tremendous job here today. Thank you for being here, Janie. And I'd like to acknowledge her business, Koa Photography. She has some wonderful exhibits of photography. I was trying to get the word. But she's done a tremendous job for Victor Harbour, the brand. And certainly thank you for being here, Janie, and sharing the moments being captured by photography. Thank you very much indeed. Also, I have to pay my respect to Huda. Huda is the Huda is the timekeeper, and she uses vaporising techniques if we don't get on time, and she's a black belt karate. So thank you very much indeed to Huda for being here. I realise what's happening. Also, I'd like to welcome Matt Lowe from Business SA. Matt, you just want to put your hand up. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here today. And also, I'd like to acknowledge Port Elliot Hotel, who are providing our food today. So thank you to Port Elliot Hotel. I'm sure the food... No? Oh, Fieldhouse Catering. Sorry. Do they work with Port Elliot Hotel? No? Okay, got that wrong. Okay. Faux pas for the morning. Yeah, you'll hold that against me. This is going worldwide. Who cares? Yeah, that's all right. That's okay. But thank you, Fieldhouse Catering, for doing what you're doing. It's been nice food. Port Elliot Hotel, by the way, is a lovely place to be too. So give them a plug. I think there was one other bit I had to acknowledge. No, I think that was it. Oh, now, it was a big faux pas of mine because that was the what prepared by Beyond Blue as part of the what. And I wanted to ask the question. I forgot to ask that before Andy came up because he was champing at the bit to get up here. So the question was to the group and to KI. This is the question. What does workplace wellbeing or your healthy workplace look like to you? So I want you to ponder that. And in KI as well, please ponder that question. So what does workplace wellbeing look like to you? Just think about that for a moment. Have a discussion at your tables. We've got Marty here and Kylie to help us maybe take some questions or some statements about how you feel that is to be answered. Have we got a couple of minutes, Huda? I'm just checking the time here. No, we don't? Okay, so we don't have a couple of minutes. However, let's ponder the question. Write it down. Again, what does workplace wellbeing look like to you? Or healthy workplace? What does that look like to you? Just write it down and we'll continue. So the next bit is the why of workplace wellbeing. I'd like to, without any delay, because I'm being looked at. Hang on. Jack of all trades, master of none. I'd like to welcome Amanda Sadoukas. I got that right or wrong? Amanda works at ReturnToWorkSA as a healthy workplace advisor. She is a physiotherapist who has undertaken further study in ergonomics, safety and health, and has previously worked across the area of workplace injury prevention and injury rehabilitation. So I'd like to welcome Amanda. Sorry. And also I'd like to welcome Paul Finlay. Paul Finlay is part of this session. He is a work health and safety advisor, wellbeing in the education team at SafeWork SA. His role entails assisting businesses across the state with their wellbeing journey through the provision of tailored information and programs. So welcome to Amanda once again, and to Paul.
Thank you for that, Colin. So Amanda and I are going to talk today about the why. We've heard some great stuff from Beyond Blue about all of the things that are going on, and so what we're going to talk to you today is about, well, why should you do something about it? Something about the noise. In that analogy about the boats, I felt like I was a leaky rowboat with one oar. So anyway, that's, so we've already spoken about that. So we're looking at why do we need to invest in workplace well-being? Obviously, it's the right thing to do. I think we'd all agree with that. We want to look after ourselves and the people who work for us. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the law from a SafeWork perspective. And Amanda's going to talk about the benefits to business. We've touched on that already, the return on investment that you get, and the areas for improvement. So might just be worth, as we were talking earlier, just have a little bit of a thought about the just what does well-being look like in a workplace, and you know, as we go through, maybe we'll ask some questions if Huda will give us time to do that. So what is a healthy workplace? Well, it's one where workers and managers collaborate to continually protect, promote, and improve the health, well-being of workers and the sustainability of their workplace. It's a bit of a mouthful. Basically, we work together to make things as good as they can be. And a healthy work environment is characterized not just by an absence of harmful conditions, so it's not just about lack of stress, etc., but an abundance of health-promoting ones. For instance, have you ever gone home feeling better at the end of the day from work? Actually feeling energized. That would be the ideal, wouldn't it? To be able to come back home and having actually more energy than when you left. So that's a sign of thriving. Some people are laughing, but no, you just never know. So we're just talking about the right thing to do. It's a fundamental right to, you know, have what does it say? The highest attainable standard of health. And the workplace has a really significant role to play in how people feel about their mental health. And there's a whole bunch of factors that relate to how you're feeling at work, and some of those are genetics and you know, your home life and all of those things. So we can't just ignore, we can't just say it's all about the work environment. It's the whole of the person and all the factors that are involved in that. I'm not saying that as a business owner you can necessarily influence all those, but it's important to remember that they're there in the background, and the way people are acting may be related to a lot of factors, with work just being one of them. But healthy workplaces, really important to be able to give that sort of solid anchor to people. You can help people's health and well-being through a good environment. But one of the things that you need to start with, and the first thing when I go out to businesses, is I ask the business owner how they're going. And I did that once, and 2 hours later, after hearing about some very, very distressing things, and the first thing, after I asked him, he broke into tears and then said, "No one has asked me that." And it kind of broke my heart, and you know, I didn't end up doing any of the things I was supposed to do on that day, except for look after, as best I could, you know, someone's mental health. So you really do need to take that time. So I'm just wondering about some of the things, just have a quick think. What are some of the things that are, you know, health promoting, good positive things in your work environment, in your healthy workplace? And also some of the things that may be positive from work, and but also some of those things that are negative. Does anybody want to just say anything about work in a positive? Yes. Yeah. So that's Julie, isn't it? Yeah. Julie's just saying, yeah. You know, it's nice. You get to work and you say hi to your colleagues, and you know, make a good start to the day. That's a very positive thing to do. Thanks for that. Yeah. What about that sort of routine of work? You know, getting up and knowing what you have to do, and those are all very positive things about work. I guess that, you know, also work can be difficult, but it's there's just a broad array of things that can impact your health in a positive and negative way at work. So just onto the legal area. So SafeWork SA looks after the work health and safety laws, and in those laws they talk about businesses have to look after your physical health, which I think we pretty well understand, but also your psychological health. And so businesses have to think about what can they do to try and help workers in that area. So one of the things is you can't just have a policy that sits there that's a health and well-being policy. You need to be active, talk to your workers, understand where they're at, keep in touch, do some training, all sorts of positive things that you can do to help people. So some of the, we call them those hazards in a business, they're called psychosocial hazards. But as we know that there's a whole bunch of factors, and when we talk about biopsychosocial, we're talking about, you know, the biology, psychological, and all those sociological factors that are involved in creating psychosocial hazards at work. And there are some changes happening in the regulations to sort of reflect this in a stronger way. And so there's a code of practices. Are you familiar with codes of practice? There's lots of codes of practice out there for working at heights and chemicals, etc. There's going to be one in SA this year for managing psychosocial hazards, which will be a great document to reference, and will be an expectation from SafeWork inspectors that you've read that and are applying the principles. And just a quick overview of some of the psychosocial hazards. So when I talk to businesses and I say, well, it's your responsibility to do something about this, they kind of go, well, this is a really big area. How do we tackle it? What are some of the common factors behind the way that work is organized that can, for want of a better word, drive people crazy? I know it's not a very PC word, but you know it is. There's a lot of systems in the way that the work is managed that can affect people's mental health. So these are some of the things. Relationships not being well managed, work demands high and low, low support, low job control, poor role clarity, organizational injustice. Has anybody ever heard of the golden child? Yes, yeah, I think that's what we all know about that. Low recognition and reward. The point of this is there are things, these are some common factors as a business owner that you can look at and try and talk to your workers about and then maybe make an improvement in. So break it down into areas. And us as part of the Wellbeing Advisors, we're happy to come out and help you for free and work through a program to help you address those. So I'll just hand over to Amanda now. Is there one more? Aha. So, well, we sort of covered this, but SafeWork, we just broadly, obviously, we enforce the WHS regulations, including psychological injury, and we provide advice and education. That's what I do. I work in the education arm, and we also take psychological complaints. So bullying and harassment complaints, you can ring up SafeWork SA, and we can help you with that, both from a counseling, like talking to you about it, but we will go out to the business and look and see what they've got in place to help them lift their game in that area. So you can always ring us for advice and also to let us know perhaps about places that need some help. So this was a quick activity. Do we have time for the activity? Yeah, we do. Yeah, okay. Just checking. Don't want to get in trouble. So do you know much about psychosocial hazards? When I talk about that, is that an idea or a concept that you've heard before? No, not really? No? Does it make sense to you that there's sort of the way that the business is run can affect your mental health? Yeah. So can you think of some psychosocial hazards that might be in your business? You know, thinking about that list that we had a minute ago? Can you think of things, bullying, harassment, or any of those, you know, that exist, or even just the way the systems the way the business is run with, you know, difficult procedures? All of that can affect your mental health. I'm very distracted by a very cute participant in the... Is she a small business owner? A very small business owner. Okay, she's keeping that. Anyway, we're here to help, and we'd love to be able to help you in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So moving on to the third why, which is that it's good for business. And this has already been touched on a little bit, but we have this wonderful infographic that shows some of the benefits on the yellow side with the arrow pointing up, and then some of the impacts of not addressing health and well-being in your workplace. So raise your hand if you would like your workplace to look like this. Hopefully most hands go up. We've got some great things there about increases in productivity, fewer injuries, increases in engagement, and that return on investment, which has been spoken about, which can be as high as $3 to $6 on every dollar spent when we look at that really broad definition of a healthy workplace and making improvements there. It's also important to consider the impact of not doing anything, which was touched on that slide just before. And while Paul talked about all of the things that impact people's health, and potentially we don't have control over all of those things, what we do have control over is the work environment that we foster in our workplace. So if we have a poor working environment, we've seen that that can impact health. And then we've also seen that poor health can further impact our working environment. So we can kind of get stuck in this vicious cycle. For example, if someone is off work because they're not well, then the workload increases for the people that are there. And then they have more psychosocial hazards which can impact their health, and it can kind of go around and around. But we do have the opportunity to change that and try and engage in this virtuous cycle of fostering that good work environment, improving people's health, which then contributes to a better working environment, and around it goes. And of course, my background is physio and injury management. So just touching on this from a return to work perspective, we know that a poor working environment can lead to poor health, which can increase the risk of injury for the people that are in your business. And it can also mean that it takes them longer to recover. So if our health is poor and we get hurt, our recovery times are longer, which can delay our return to work. And then, of course, that can increase frustration for the person that's injured and off work for longer than they want to be, but then also for the people that remain in the business. And that can create a bit of a vicious cycle as well. So there are some good opportunities to take there, both from general health and wellbeing, but then also that return to work perspective as well. So another quick little activity. You don't have to shout anything out, but maybe just think to yourself, what are some outcomes that you might like to see in your own business if you were to implement some changes to health and wellbeing? Are you looking for those productivity increases, or maybe turnover of staff is a really big issue for you? But yeah, have a think about that and jot that down, because that might guide you with your action planning a little bit later on, and what outcomes you're looking to achieve. Does anyone have one that they want to shout out? No, that's all good. And then the last why is that we're not there yet. So we still have some work to do in this area. This is a survey that was undertaken by Superfriend, and they do a survey of how thriving our workplaces are here in Australia, and an overall score of 80 or above is thriving. And Australia-wide, we're sitting at about 65 when we look at measures across these areas of connectedness, culture, capability, leadership and policy. And in South Australia, we're sitting just below the national average at 65.3. So we do have a bit of work to do in that area. And then also when we look at our health as Australians, we do have quite a lot of risk factors for ill health. And we know that almost 1 in 2 people have a chronic health condition. So that if you have, unless you're a sole trader, if you've got more than one person in your business, it's likely that one of you is struggling with a chronic condition, and it's predicted that that number will rise as well. So we need to be aware of what's happening in the health of our nation and how we can respond to that in our workplaces. And this is just a bit of a breakdown of the types of conditions that people are struggling with and how they might impact your business. So arthritis is quite a common condition, and if you do work that's physically demanding, then that might have a big impact on the way your business runs. We've also got some return to work data trends for you. So these colourful lines show the cost of workplace injury for the Fleurieu region. So this is specific to you. I need a roaming mic. Glenn, do you want to hop up and be my beautiful diagram? Oh, can I? Hello? Oh, okay. So I won't fall off the edge. I'll hop down. So these lines down through here are the years leading up to COVID. And this shows the cost of injury on this axis going up over time. So we were trending pretty similarly with the cost of workplace injury prior to COVID. And then these 3 lines are the years post-COVID, and we can see that there's been a really sharp increase in how much workplace injury is costing your region. So that's not great. That's probably something that we can address if we focus on these healthy workplace environments. And then we can also look at how well your region is travelling compared to the scheme. So the Fleurieu is this top section with the orange bars, and the rest of the scheme is this bottom section with the blue bars here. And I've just highlighted 2 areas that I think we should really look at. And again, we can try to integrate this into our action planning a little bit later on. So the orange boxes here and here look at mental stress and how many claims there are that are a result of mental stress in your region. And we can see that for the overall scheme, it's about 3% of claims. But unfortunately, in your region, it's almost 6%. So it's almost double what's happening in the rest of South Australia. And then we can also see that the cost of those injuries is quite a lot more as well. And then the other thing, which is, just a cost thing, is that when people are hit by moving objects, the injuries in the scheme are costing about $10,000 each, and down here they're about $25,000 each. So they're just some stats that can help us look at where we need to intervene in our businesses. And then this final graph looks at how work is changing down here in the region. And this is a breakdown of claims by age. So younger down this end, older up this end. This was your region 20 years ago. So we can see lots of younger people getting injured. And this is your region now. And we can see there's been a huge swing towards injuries in that older population. So we know that around the country we have an ageing workforce, and probably around the world we have an ageing workforce as well. And we need to factor that in when we're designing our health and wellbeing programs and really trying to understand what the people in our business need. Because as we saw in Andy's Beyond Blue video, I think they were talking about the impacts of financial stress and how that affects younger people and women more than some other groups. We need to think about, what are the impacts of the demographic in our business, and how can we address that? So, last activity, and then I'm done. If you just want to take a moment, and hopefully again this will help to formulate and contribute to your action planning. how have the changes or the needs of your business and your staff changed over the past few years, particularly with COVID? That might have had a bit of an impact on that. Or what are those kind of areas that you think might need addressing most in your business? So that's us. That's just a bit of a recap again of the 4 main reasons why we should invest in workplace wellbeing. So Paul talked about it being the right thing to do. We all have that right to the best attainable standard of health, and work influences our health. So we need to make sure that we address that. It's the law, and Paul talked about it being the law and how SafeWork can help you with meeting your obligations. We've seen that it's good for business, and we'll probably hear more about how it's good for business and a good investment. And then, yeah, there's room for improvement. We're not there yet, and we need to make sure that we're continually changing the way that we address workplace health to reflect what's going on in our businesses and in society. So that is all. Ooh, I don't know what happened with the formatting there. But we're going to have a quick little stretch break because sitting is not good for your health if you do it for too long. So does everyone want to have a stand up and just do a few stretches that feel good? You can lift your arms up or stretch to the side. You can have a go at touching your toes if you like.
Thank you, Amanda and Paul. Could I make sure that everyone is please standing, including those on KI? Can we all make sure we're standing? And I'd like you to put your hands down to your sides. Can everyone please do this? Just put your hands to your sides. Then what I want you to do is start dancing. So this is the Irish jig, all right, and you've got to move your feet around. But actually, I really loved doing that. That was really good. So we're going to have a 10-minute break, back at 5 to 9. So please come back, and then we're going to be quite interactive. So KI, be prepared. We're going to get you involved as well. And so 5 to 9 on the spot. Otherwise, you will be vaporised by Huda. Thank you. All right. So we'd like to get going, and this is where we're going to be having some activities. This is really the heart of the day. So we've looked at the what, and we've looked at the why. So the next bit we're looking at is the how of workplace wellbeing, and this is where we need your involvement. And by the way, I'm just reminding you that all the slides you're seeing today, we will send out to everyone that's attended. And also YouTube, guess what? It's out there across the world. We have no choice, but it'll just remain out there somewhere. So who knows who might pick this up. Just hope it's not Russia or China, but anyway, I shouldn't be political, should I? So I'd like to introduce Kylie Cox and Marty Webber. Kylie Cox, let me get my profile out because I've got to get this right, otherwise she will probably kill me. Kylie is a registered nurse with a passion in the area of health promotion and prevention of illness. Kylie has a simple belief. We need to keep healthy as we age, and sadly, for most of us, we spend from age 15 to 65. So 50 years in the workforce, which is more than half our lives. And so the workforce is the place to influence positive health and wellbeing. How true. For the last 7 years, Kylie has been advising workplaces on how they can support workplace health and wellbeing, and currently is a member of the Healthy Workplaces Service, which you can register for free support. Marty is a registered psychologist with a passion in the area of workplace mental health and wellbeing. For the last 7 years, Marty has worked at ReturnToWorkSA as the mentally healthy workplaces consultant, providing free assistance and support to workplaces and industries in South Australia to help them to take action to create thriving workplaces. Can I say I've worked with Kylie and Marty in past life, and their enthusiasm, their commitment, their dedication to this space is incredible. It's a fantastic bit of gold. Being gold sponsors Return to Work SA, but it is a bit of gold here for South Australia. We're lucky, I think, as Andy was saying from Beyond Blue, we're lucky to have these resources available. But they're actually going to talk about the what and the actual resources, the physical resources on what it is you can get as businesses, small to medium-sized businesses. For some people in the room, I know there's small business is a bit of a thing at the moment, being less than 20 people in the workplace. But there are a lot of businesses now, some businesses in this room and probably on Kangaroo Island, where those businesses aren't small businesses, they're considered medium-sized businesses as well. So without any further ado, I'd like to call on Marty and Kylie to do their bit. Thank you.
Okay, can everyone hear me? So everyone should have a roadmap in front of them. And if you don't, just grab a roadmap, grab a pen, and we're not necessarily going to get you to fill this out right now, but we will be getting you to fill it out very shortly. So as we go through our session around the how, if there's anything that comes to mind, just start jotting down a few notes, but you will have time to really think about it after Rebecca's done her practical case study. So we'll be coming back to this roadmap, but we're going to step you through the roadmap now. So all I would say is that Kylie and I have been in this space for the last 7 years, and we definitely say that workplaces are all different stages when it comes to workplace wellbeing. Many workplaces are still right at the beginning. Some workplaces have got some things in place, but they're really looking at, okay, what more can we do? And I found that, it's great to hear about, what is a healthy workplace, why it matters. But I think sometimes the real sticking point is, we know we want to do something about it, but what do we do? How do we go about doing it? And it can be quite confusing. There's a lot of information out there. And I think particularly when you are a small business, and we've just heard from Andy that talked about, small business being quite time poor, you really just want to know, what do I need to do? Give me a map to follow, some practical tools that I can grab hold of so that we can actually start taking some action at workplace level. So that's really what we want to take you through today, and we're really hoping that when you leave today, you'll have the start of your roadmap to follow. Yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Yep.
Marty and I tend to bounce off each other a little bit, have a little bit more conversation, so I butt in quite regularly. So we're quite an interactive session for this part of it, rather than just sitting and hearing all the information. So to start with, just a quick question, and I want a show of hands. In terms of this workplace journey where businesses are at, so KI, we'd like to see your hands in the air here as well. Could you put your hand up, please, if you think your workplace is doing super great in regards to workplace health and wellbeing? You've got a program in place, you're kicking goals. Okay, who might be at the other end? Who's got nothing in place, starting to think about it, just not quite sure where to go on your journey? Okay, who's got a couple of things in place? Just ad hoc things here and there, yep, okay. And then who's probably slightly a little bit further along, has got a little bit of a plan and got a fair bit in place? Okay, and over in KI, anyone in that regards? All right, great, thank you. That's probably about right in terms of when we usually ask people. We get people across the spectrum. So what we're going to do today is help you, if you're quite advanced, how to get further. If you're at the beginning of the journey, what do you need to start to get going?
Okay, excellent. So if you have a look at your roadmap, we're going to go through 5 key steps to follow in relation to workplace wellbeing. The first step is actually around leadership commitment. Committed leadership that supports and invests a healthy workplace. If you read anything around creating a healthy workplace, all it says is a critical success factor is actually your leadership. So if you've got your leaders set your tone, the culture, have a lot of influence around policies, procedures, resource allocation. So your leaders within your business really lead the way when it comes to workplace wellbeing. Now, if you are the leaders in the room, then it's about showing that visible commitment. If you walk away going, yep, we want to do more, it's actually about having a conversation when you go back to the workplace and say, you know what, I went to this session today, and what we've decided, I think we really need to do as a business, and we need to do this together, is look at what more we can do around health, safety and wellbeing. So what does that mean? What are some of the things that leaders can do? It may mean that you want to commit your commitment to paper. So you might have a health and safety policy already, but you might want to make sure, you might say, okay, that health and safety policy, we've heard from Paul, we need to make sure our health and safety policy includes both physical and psychological health. You may say, you know what, we want to have a dedicated wellbeing committee, dedicated wellbeing policy, or you might just say, I want to have some kind of pledge or commitment statement around wellbeing that really shows our commitment. A lot of it around wellbeing also, with your leadership, actually doesn't cost any money. It's around creating that culture. I said leadership really does have such an influence around workplace culture. So a lot of it's around that culture, it's around creating that culture of care. That's what I call a mentally healthy workplace, a culture of care. And it's where people really feel like they're cared for beyond just getting the work done. And if you're in a small business, you might say, yep, that's what our business is like. We really care for, we really have this genuine care and concern for everyone within our business, and we really show that. I think it's walking the talk, being a role model. Andy really talked about the importance of making sure that your cup is full. So as a leader, really making sure that you're looking after your own health and wellbeing, but it's also those day-to-day behaviours. If leaders are role models, if they're accessible, if they're respectable, if they're supportive within the workplace, then all of those behaviours are also going to flow through to the workplace. The last thing is to consider and commit to the resources needed for your success. So as you're going through your action plan, it's also thinking about, are there some resource commitments here? Now, there are a lot of free resources that we're going to talk about today. So there are a lot of things that you can implement that don't cost any money. But there may be some things that do mean that there's a resource commitment. You might want to do some training for your staff. You might say, you know what, we really want to focus on workplace mental health. Within our business, we've got a physical first aider. Maybe we should have a mental health first aider for our business as well. And so we're going to commit some resources to train up someone to be that mental health first aider. So thinking about what kind of resource commitment you may need to make sure that your wellbeing program is a success. Over to you, Kate.
Wonderful. I've been told not to fall off the stage and cause any issues. Just thinking about St. Patrick's Day, my daughter actually is an Irish dancer, and I've just this morning heard that she's off this morning to a school and a nursing home and a childcare doing her Irish jig, but I still would probably be around about Colin and my ability to jig. So yes, leadership commitment is number one. We know that if leaders aren't committed, it's really hard to get groundswell and to get health and wellbeing happening in the workplace. So one of the key actions under there too is that that leaders undertake training in terms of those skills of being able to communicate correctly as well, how to manage conflict, how to manage employees and staff. And often we do see that employees will then go up the chain without necessarily having the support skills around them to be good leaders. Step number 2 in our journey is around doing a stock take. And so what are you already doing? So when we go out and visit workplaces, I better move the slide, thank you. When we go out and see workplaces, this is the first question we usually ask is what have you already got in place? And interestingly, we find that businesses don't think they're doing much, and then once we ask them, all of a sudden they go, wow, we are actually doing a lot here, because wellbeing encompasses so many elements. So it might just not be flu vaccinations, it might not just be fruit, it might be the fact that your leaders are being trained, it may be that you have an EAP service, it may that you've got your bullying and harassment policy in place. So there's a lot of elements that come underneath here. You might have flexible work arrangements. So it's really important for you to have a look at what policies and procedures you've already got in place, pull those together with what supports you know that you're providing, but also supports that are free, that are available, that you can pull together, and what activities you might be undertaking. And interestingly enough, once you pull those into, this is what our workplace is doing to support workplace health and wellbeing, you'll find that you've got a really good starting base. But the second key element that's really important that we know with doing this stock take is understanding what your key challenges are. So Amanda alluded to some of these in her presentation. We can see here in Victor Harbour, over in KI, that we've probably got an ageing workforce, and with that age then comes chronic conditions. It comes some of those elements of arthritis that kick into place, don't they, David? And so we've got some intel in regards to what our workforce needs. But we also need to look at what the key safety concerns are in each of your businesses, and this is unique to your situation, to recognise what the safety risks are and put them high on priority. Is it recruitment and retention? Are there any particular conditions happening? And the whole reason, thanks Marty, me not moving the slides forward, the whole reason why we need to do this stock take is because we know you can't do everything. It's not possible to actually undertake all these elements with health and wellbeing and do everything else in terms of running a business. So doing a stock take helps you to prioritise what you can then realistically achieve and realistically do. So it doesn't seem so overwhelming and cause anxiety, and therefore, you know, we're actually then not practicing what we're preaching, and we put ourselves under more mental health distress. So step number 2 is doing that stock take. And then step number 3, similarly to doing your stock take, is more about engaging with your team and how you get your employees involved. So not only do we know that consultation is part of work health and safety, ensuring that you consult with your workers, but it provides really good insight to be able to ask your workers what they would like and what they would need. So often we hear of workplaces who may have gone to the efforts of getting someone in to do yoga, or they may have purchased some sort of equipment that's going to support workers, to then say, oh, that just didn't work. Went to all that effort and nothing happened. But they actually haven't asked their workers in the first place, would this work? When's it going to work for you? Before work, after work, during work? Do you want to put money into it? Do you not want to put money into it? We come sometimes with the assumptions around what's going to work best. So some ways to do this. We've already clicked, thanks Marty. Some ways to do this obviously is through one-on-one conversations. It could be in a toolbox meeting or a toolbox talk, and a simple way for a small business to do this would be, if you're having a meeting, to actually get some post-it notes and ask your workers to write down 2 or 3 things that they think could improve workplace health and wellbeing in the workplace, and then use those post-it notes later to collate them later. Because we also know in a team meeting, when you ask someone something, or when you're in a large room and you ask someone something, no one's going to say anything. Whereas when we get you to do small group work soon, we know that you'll begin to kind of talk as a smaller group, or would be happy to write something down on paper. So look for those ways that you can get intel from every single person. It could be a survey system that you might use. You might do a survey tool, use MS Forms or SurveyMonkey. So conducting a survey is a good way if you've got a larger organisation, or if you've got people who are external to your on-site. The last way that you can do this is by having wellbeing champions, or using your HSR reps. So there's usually 1 or 2 people with an organisation who are the little chit-chatters, the ones that know what's going on. You know, use that strengths-based to be able to ask those people, give me some intel, what do you think our people want here to help our health and wellbeing? So you've got your leadership commitment, you've done your stock take, you know kind of what's going on in your workforce. You've engaged your team to ask them what they would like to see, what they might want. That should get you to a point where you can at least choose 2 to 3 priorities that we're going to go through an action plan shortly. So we're going to run through some resources now that may support you in this next phase of action planning. Okay, put your hands up if you're with me. Whoa, half of the room. KI, put your hands up if you're with me. Oh, one. All right. So how do we get some more energy? Do I need to Irish jig? Look, Colin wants to, come up and jig again. Alrighty, so these are some of the resources that are available for us to help and support you. The first one I want to talk about, and we've been really fortunate to launch the Healthy Workplace service in October last year. So this is the opportunity for us to come in one-on-one, have a bit more of a chat with you about healthy workplaces. This is us being able to, you say, oh my gosh, where do I start with mental health? There's so many resources available. Which one should I look at? This is us being able to say to you, you want to talk to your staff, how do you do it? And we can provide you with a bank of questions that might be useful. Like, we are here to build time and capability when you're very time poor. And, this may not be a priority. So the Healthy Workplaces service, you can go on and register online. As Amanda is here and Paul is here and myself, our wonderful DIS team where Leah is, they triage when people come through and take it out through to our services. And so I just encourage you from here on in to utilise us and our services. We also have our Healthy Workplaces website, which is a little bit of a one-stop shop around workplace health and wellbeing. And again, something for you to go on to find all the tools and resources that can support around this area. So we know that one of the barriers really is around what is the right information, where do I find it, what exactly do I do? So we're trying to decrease some of those barriers for businesses to support.
Okay, I just wanted to also say that at ReturnToWorkSA, we have a lot of free resources when it comes to mentally healthy workplaces, but also recovery and return to work. And our website has a lot of information around that. We also do a lot of support around return to work coordinators. So if you are a business with 30 or more staff, there is a requirement to appoint and train a return to work coordinator. If you need any more information around that, Huda, I think everyone knows Huda by now. Huda is an amazing resource, employer education advisor at ReturnToWorkSA, and she can help you in lots and lots of different ways around recovery, return to work, any questions you might have about work injury claims, and return to work coordinators. The other thing that we do is that we run a free employer skill building program, and a really good thing about COVID, if there is anything good about COVID, is that we used to do everything face-to-face, and now we do so many of our workshops online, and it means that our regional audience can access the majority of our workshops. So you'll see on your tables just a little upcoming event, 3 free workshops that are coming up in relation that Return to Work SA is running. One of them is around managing psychosocial hazards and risks. So if the whole area of psychological harm, I want to know more about this new code of practice that's coming in, how do I prevent psychological harm? If that's something you're really interested in, all you need to do is register via the QR code. There's also a return to work coordinator fundamentals. So even if you're not a return to work coordinator but you want to know more around how to manage work injury claims, that would be a really good one as well. So please have a look at that. The other thing that's on your table is there's a little brochure like this, and this is a free online module around creating a mentally healthy workplace that I developed in conjunction with an organisation called GPEX. It only takes you about an hour and a half. So as a business owner, if you want to know more around what can we do around workplace mental health, that would be a really good course to go through at your own pace. And then if you really like it and you've got other people in your business that you think might be useful for them to go through it, you can let them know the link there as well. In addition, as I said before, if you want to know any more information, our resources are free. The support that I provide is absolutely free. So if you've got any questions around workplace mental health, then please email me. Likewise, any questions around injury, return to work coordinators, then please email Huda as well. And you'll get all this information. Other resources, I just wanted to, there is just so many resources out there, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with too many resources. So I've actually been quite contained. But look, Paul talked about SafeWork SA being the WHS regulator in South Australia. If you're a small business, you want to know more or do more around WHS, they've got a great simple steps to safety guide and audit tool. How can you integrate health and safety into your business operations? And they've also got a free advisory service. Again, you can ring up or online and get a educator such as Paul to come out and provide you with some advice around some safety issues or concerns that you may have. Mentally healthy workplaces. I've talked to you about my online module. Just one resource I want to let you know about, which is a really new resource that's been created. The National Mental Health Commission has been given some money by the federal government. They've done a lot of consultation and they've come up with a blueprint around how to create a mentally healthy workplace that any workplace can follow. But they've also got a one-stop shop, a website, a digital platform. So if you want to know anything about creating a mentally healthy workplace, you just need to go to the digital platform. It's at the moment it's in what they call beta mode, which means they're still sort of finalising it, but it's still publicly available and you can provide your feedback on the platform, I think until around the end of June, if you've got any feedback around how you found the platform as well. The final thing I wanted to talk about is, look, there's a lot of supports available around mental health. Andy's already spoken about new access for small business owners, and you might be going, wow, this is such a fantastic resource for me as a sole trader or for me as a business owner. But what about my staff? What about if a staff member's struggling? What kind of support could I provide or let them know about? So one support service that I wanted to let you know about was a support service that's funded by the Country SA Primary Health Network, which is called Regional Access. I think there's some flyers on your table, or if not, they're at the Return to Work SA table. And Regional Access is for anyone living in regional South Australia. You don't have to be at work, but anyone in regional South Australia, you get 24/7 access to a professional counsellor. You get 3 free counselling sessions. You don't need a referral. You don't need to go to your GP. You can just ring up or get chat online and get support. So that's one free service that you could promote as a small business to your workers. Yes. Yes.
You said 24/7. That regional access?
Yeah, 24/7. 24/7.
Give that number a call.
Give that number a call 24/7 and you'll get access to a professional counsellor.
Okay, and the service is offered by that regional access service?
It's run by, sorry, Kangaroo Island. It's run by an organisation called On The Line, which I think is a Victorian company, Andy, isn't it? Oh, not sure. But they run a lot of services like Men's Line Australia, but it is 24/7. So you have a look at the website there. You'll get these slides. It'll have all the information about regional access for you. And you can actually order some little cards, poster, little cards that you can actually have out on site as well. Yeah. You're classified as regional. Yep. Definitely. I mean, Mount Barker, I think is. So you would be. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, you're definitely regional. The other thing is that I've got 2 minutes. The other thing is that these days, I know I do it myself. I'm looking for information, I'll grab my phone and I'll Google. So if I'm not feeling well, I'm feeling a bit anxious, I might grab my phone and I might type in anxiety, but goodness knows what's going to come up. So a really good resource to promote at workplace level is a website called Head to Health. It's a federal government website and it houses reputable digital mental health tools and resources. It means that if I now type in anxiety, what will come up is phone line, chat lines, online apps that I can put on my phone, mental health programs that I can do on the computer, or mental health services where I can do a program on the computer but also link to a professional, health professional as well. So that's a really good website to promote at workplace level. And the other one is WellMob, very similar, social and emotional wellbeing resources for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Really, really fantastic resource. So there's a few resources. As I said, I've been very constrained. The last thing is a plan for action. I don't know about you, but I know for me, if I write something down, and even if I tell people about it, I'm much more likely to do it. So today you'll have an opportunity to write down some of the things that you're thinking about, and then I'd go back and have a conversation with your staff about it and find out what's important to them as well. But when you're thinking about a simple plan that you can take, I think a simple plan can be around these 3 pillars of protect, promote, respond. So protect is how can I prevent harm? How can I protect people from both physical and psychological harm whilst they're at work, as is reasonably practicable? And that's your safety aspect. That's your safety systems. Promoting is about saying, okay, we want to really create a great workplace where people really love coming to work. How can we do that? We need good leadership, good sense of connection. We need purpose and meaning in what we do. We need people to be recognised for the good work that we do. And also, we're at work a long period of time, so let's actually promote some healthy lifestyle activities while we're there. And finally, respond. We want to support our team. So we want to be able to make sure that if they're struggling, if they've got ill health or they're injured, that we've got the right supports. We can respond appropriately. We've got the right skills and capabilities within our workplace to be able to have that conversation. But we've also got the right supports in place. If we have a work injury, hopefully we don't, but if you do, are you prepared for that? If the answer is no, I wouldn't have a clue what to do, then you can prepare by actually getting in contact with Huda, and she can tell you some really simple things that you can take to, hopefully it won't happen, but you'll be prepared if it does, and you know what to do. I think you're doing the last 2, aren't you? Or do you want me to keep going? I got 30 seconds. Okay. Kylie's already said this. Today is not about overwhelming you. We do not want to overwhelm you, particularly when you're in a small business and you're time poor and you've got lots of things to do. And that's why going through this bit of a roadmap, just choosing a couple of things that you want to take is absolutely fine today. So taking small steps is okay. And one thing that I find workplaces don't do very well, and this can be some of the busyness, is that we don't actually go back and reflect on the successes. So if you do start this wellbeing journey, if you start doing more, don't forget to celebrate your successes with your team and just really to recognise what you're actually achieving along the way. I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm just realising the time, and also we have Reggie Martin, who is from the Legislative Council in the Labor government. He'll be here to represent the Attorney-General. He should be arriving probably soon, about 8:45, he thinks, so he's still on his way. However, we did invite the Attorney-General and he wasn't available, but we've got Reggie Martin to represent him. Thank you, Kylie and Marty, for that particular bit of the session. One thing that's very clear with what Kylie and Marty were just saying, and something that happened quite a few years ago when we were working together, is businesses out there were saying, particularly small businesses are saying, and it's like, if I can steal it from you, Kirsten, well, okay, that's okay, knowing about all these resources, but how do I physically actually get my hand being held to do it? Now, that's what Kylie and Marty are out there for now. So they're saying physically we can do face-to-face, not online, face-to-face consultations with businesses. That is now available and has been available for some time. So if anything from today, if you can take that away, that is important, that you understand that. And there are now all these other resources that are now available for you to access. And now we will be going through that little exercise. So even for those people on Kangaroo Island, those businesses, this is the bit about today that is very important, that you know that you can get hands-on holding, if you like, approach to supporting your business. And that's fantastic. So thank you for that. We're just going to continue, and if Reggie Martin turns up, we'll break fairly quickly, but we'll go into the next part if that's all right with everyone. Just before I leave that particular part, the regional question was asked too. We are treated as regional. We're not treated as regional in Victor Harbor through the immigration side of things through the state government, but I'm sure we will lobby and try and get that changed, because we should be considered as regional. We're no different to Murray Bridge as far as distance is concerned from Adelaide, but we will certainly be lobbying and advocating for that down the track to make sure we are definitely recognised as regional here in Victor Harbor. No, Kangaroo Island definitely is, but certainly the Fleurieu and all those touch points and towns should be considered as regional. So just take that on board from a Business Victor Harbor advocacy role that we do. Okay, so the next part of the how is me introducing you to Rebecca Weatherall. Rebecca Weatherall, firstly, Rebecca Weatherall has her own business, Workplace Wellbeing, and she's the founder of that business. Actually, I'm not even reading from her profile. Goodness me. So she's a founder and wellbeing strategist of Workplace Wellbeing. She works with organisations to optimise staff performance and wellbeing in even the most challenging of situations. Science-based solutions tailored to the needs, using practical science-based solutions tailored to the needs, culture and personalities of each team. She's an accredited mental health first aider.
Hello everyone, thank you Colin. Yes, I didn't realise that the theme today was St Patrick's Day, and coincidentally I did have a green jacket in the car, so I rushed out and popped that on. All right, so we've heard lots today, and thank you to everyone who's presented. So we've heard the why, the reasons why, the how, some fantastic resources, and I just wanted to take you through just 20 minutes of a case study, because I've been working with businesses now for about 18 months, and one in particular that I'd like to actually share the actual process that I've gone through. All right, so we're going to have a little look at the Pisani Group. All right, so we're going to have a little look at the Pisani Group. But firstly, I know Matt Lowe has seen this, and maybe some people in Kangaroo Island also have seen this photo, because I did a summit back in September with the people in Kangaroo Island. Does anybody know what this is? Dugout, yes? Yeah. Has anyone been to Coober Pedy? Got a few hands in the air? Yep. So this is a dugout in Coober Pedy in 1980, and that is me sitting on the lounge with my mum and my family. So this was our family dugout. I grew up in Coober Pedy for about the first 13 years of my life. And for those who have been to Coober, you know it's pretty hot and the conditions are quite rugged. In fact, I didn't have any TV growing up until I was about 13. And we had an outside toilet, no inside running water. It was, things were fairly challenging. So I thought that I had developed quite a high level of resilience, because I had been in a situation like Coober. But I was reflecting this morning, it's almost 10 years ago now when I found myself experiencing what we now know as burnout. It was professional burnout. But back in late 2013, I had no idea what that was. I just knew that I was unwell. And at the time, the World Health Organization hadn't identified burnout. So I approached my doctor. She wasn't sure. I knew it wasn't depression, but I knew that I wasn't right either. So I actually had to step away from my workplace. So I was currently the event manager at the Lion Hotel, working some crazy hours, and I had to step away from that position so that I could find some strategies, some self-managed strategies, which soon had me back on track in a few months. But I guess that experience then has prompted me into the work that I do today. And I was very interested in learning more about the science behind wellbeing and those things we can do to look after ourselves. And there are so many science-based tools, and that's what I share with the organisations I work with. All right, so these are some of the outcomes of the work that I have been doing with the Pisani Group. So back in October last year, Business SA held the biggest mentally healthy breakfast. It was the third breakfast that they had held. They had about 450 guests there, and I was approached to share a case study of the work that I had been doing with the Pisani Group. And so Stephen Pisani, the owner of the business, joined myself and the MC on stage to talk a little bit and share some of his personal experience about the reasons why he wanted to implement a wellbeing strategy. So you'll see on your table, there's just some little brochures, a little brochure on your table. I just really would like to read out one of Stephen's comments. And he quoted, "Workplace wellbeing support for my vision and our business culture has been invaluable. It's difficult to change business culture and put teams' wellbeing over profit, but the results speak for themselves." Now that's words from Stephen, and you can see on the screen, if you can see that out the back there, these are some of the results that we've had over the course of about 18 months of a structured wellbeing program. So you can see that there's been a 30% increase in staff productivity. Just to give you a bit of background, the Pisani Group, the business has been running for about 21 years. It was started by Stephen from Port Pirie. So again, it's an accounting practice. And when we started, he had about 17 employees. Now they now have about 26. But they had a regional office in Port Pirie for the accounting practice and one in Glenelg when I first started working. And so with an accounting practice, it was very easy to track that productivity level because they had all the tax returns, etc. So it was wonderful to see that 30% increase in productivity. The revenue growth was 100% over 18 months. Very interestingly, and for all the business owners in the room, what Stephen was able to do with his team working at performing much higher was he was able to reduce his director hours. So those hours that he was spending in the business with his people, he was able to reduce those hours by 27 hours a week. Amazing, a lot, right? He didn't go and watch Netflix, by the way. He created 4 new businesses. So we had a wellbeing session last week, and he introduced another business that he has grown. So the business has grown, and as they've grown, they've also grown the wellbeing program with them. So you can really see that result around direct hours, and then how he was able to funnel that time and that effort and focus into growing his business. As you well know, in regions, it's very difficult to attract and retain good people, right? That attraction and retention is a very hot topic now for most business owners, and even more so in those regional centres. So through having a structured wellbeing program in place, there was a situation where one of his much-loved people in his regional office was approached by a competitor to go and work for them, but she decided to stay with the company because of that culture of care that they had created. And for me, that's a massive big win. It says it's only $45,000 here on the screen, but I think that's fairly conservative. I think that's a huge win because she's very much an important part of the business, and this is just one example. that's for the retention. On the attraction side, he has employed almost 10 new staff, and they haven't had to do a proper recruitment drive at all for that. That has certainly been because of their reputation in the industry, and people want to come and work for them. The other, I guess, acknowledgement and accolade that they received late last year was they were awarded the Public Accountants SA Practice of the Year. And so that acknowledgement, I mean, this is a small firm of only, back then, 17 people, and they were acknowledged with Practice of the Year, and part of that was having that wellbeing program in place. So the growth of their brand was very strong, or has been very strong. Okay, and as I said, there's some three new businesses added into the mix, which has grown their profits considerably. But since speaking at the event at the Business SA Mentally Healthy Breakfast back in October, I presented some of those business metrics. But what I didn't have at the time were those... Welcome, yeah, all good. What we didn't have really was some data around the individual wellbeing levels of the team, right? So this was a really important piece of the whole program. So what we did in December, we took another measurement. So originally when I started the program, we had a wellbeing measurement survey. Now I use a survey that's designed under the PERMA framework, so that's under positive psychology framework, and so we used that as a baseline to take some baseline measurements for everybody. People receive their own wellbeing scores, and as a licensed tool we get the de-identified data behind to see how the wellbeing levels are as a group, right? So we did that originally back in July 21 up in Port Pirie. We had our lovely foundational wellbeing day, and the team had done these measurement scores. We redid them again in December, and hopefully you can see some of this. But we had a 30% lift in those consistently thriving areas. So that was incredibly high, and I was absolutely delighted. In fact, when I got the data, when I was looking at it, you know, it was one of those moments where I felt every cell in my body tingling, because I know to see that this is, you know, after 18 months, these are the results that we were able to get for the team. Now, when I say consistently thriving, I want to point out, and as we all know, it's not without struggle. Okay, because we are all dealing with various struggles. So this ability to thrive is in addition to struggling too, all right? We're not all just happy people, it's having those higher levels of well-being, all right? And that feeling of languishing, which is very much language around positive psychology, so that's those feelings of being blah, of being really de-energised, then those levels have also decreased. So we had less people feeling like that, and 30% feeling much stronger in their well-being. So this was really, really good news. So we were looking at well-being obviously in the environment, and from obviously the business metrics, but most importantly from the individual well-being levels. So this was great news. All right, so how do we do it? Okay, you'll see too, just on the inside of this brochure, it's very much a 4-step process that I take, and it's very similar and based on the work that Marty and Kylie have shared here around the structure, and you'll probably find a lot of that on the Healthy Workplace website. But the 4-step process I take with clients is to do the evaluation piece first. So I look at various things. One is the PERMA Wellbeing Survey that I just mentioned. This is actually a free survey. So if you want to get on and have a little look at your own levels of wellbeing, it's a 5-minute survey. If you just Google PERMA Wellbeing Survey, it's by the Wellbeing Lab. So it was designed by Dr. Peggy Kern out of the University of Melbourne. So you can do it yourselves. And it's free. It also provides you with a bit of a wellbeing action plan too within the tool, so you get your results immediately. All right. So that's the evaluation piece. I do other evaluations. So I look at the team culture. I look at, it's called a team environment survey, and it's around that psychological safety. It's not what Paul was talking about around those psychosocial risks or hazards. I don't do that as part of the assessment. We look at how safe do the team feel in talking about and sharing the way they might be feeling mentally and physically. So it looks at that. And I also, because I love strengths, as a strengths profile practitioner, I also help people to become more aware around their strengths so they can use them more at work, and we know that that energises us. Okay, so evaluation piece. The education piece is a foundational workshop. So I bring all the team together and really start to help them understand wellbeing. A little bit like Andy shared, that continuum, to get people to understand that you're not well or unwell, that it's a moving experience, I guess, and then how your levels of wellbeing can influence I guess from both prevention and recovery of developing a mental illness. So we do an education piece, and then that evolution is really around a strategy. So I take the data from the evaluations. I also do a little bit of a checklist, a health check, and in fact, Colin will be talking about that a little bit later, but a health check as well. And I combine all that information into a strategy document using that framework around that Marty shared around the promote, protect and respond. And I do a strategy for the organisation, and then within that strategy piece, we look at doing a wellbeing planner. So it's very much structured. That's the evolution, and of course we want to empower people to look after their own well-being. So it's finding ways to do that and looking at how we can work to continuously improve what we're doing, because we know some things will work and some things won't, and we're always looking to do things better, right? All right. You might have, I just wanted to, I was going to go back to that last slide. You might have seen on that last slide there was just a little bit of a structured 6-month program in place where I choose a topic. So that was something that I designed for the Pisani group for the next, until the end of this financial year. Something else that I've had lots of fun doing, and it's really draws in the engagement of the team, is to do some challenges. And they're a fantastic group of people, and they've been very brave, and they've really engaged in some fantastic challenges. So we've done some step challenges, but rather than just make it a 10,000 steps, I partnered them up and we tailored it. So it was a virtual walk really from their Glenelg office to their Port Pirie office, which is about 225 kilometres. So it was getting the team involved, knowing that they were, walking between offices. So that got them feeling very competitive. We always reward, we always have a winner. Again, just that competitiveness there. So you'll see up on the screen, I've shared a sleep challenge. So this sleep challenge, in fact, we've run 2. So I ran one with them back in July, which I thought was a great time of year to run a sleep challenge because it's winter and it's also the start, but I didn't realise too, it was the start of their very busy season, being 1st of July. And one of the elements of the sleep challenge was to not have any coffee after about midday. So there was a lot of feedback for the team that said that's so unfair. Like, we need coffee all day in July. And I'm like, okay, and this is continuous improvement, right? And so they asked to redo it in February, a different time of year. So we've just redone the challenge. We've looked at their previous results, and you know what? There's no app involved. It's just, I've just created this little bit of a scorecard. They fill out the scores. I've got wellbeing champions in place. In fact, I've got 4 wellbeing champions in place there, and we get together once a month. We Zoom, we have a meeting, and then those wellbeing champions are awesome because they're on the ground. They can hear the comments that don't get back to me, and as a consequence, we can sort of shape the choices that we make, right? So, challenges, champions I've spoken about, check-ins. I've got 2 minutes, who says? Okay, so check-ins, that's very important. Again, that's checking in with one another. I'm growing as this program is maturing, so are the skills of the leadership team. They've just appointed a leadership team in the business, and I'm developing some from the ABS. One of the important points you point out, there's about 3.4 million people who consulted some medical practitioners. Out of that data, for me, the biggest positive to come out of that was that 3 in 5 of us are looking for ways to self-manage, all right? So if there's so many of us, and probably it's a little bit higher than that, looking for those self-managed strategies as a business owner to be able to provide your team with a range of different activities to look at is really important. So that's what I did with the Pisani group. So we have done some crazy things. We have done a gut health challenge. We have done the sleep challenge. I got them to do a cold shower challenge. Does anyone here do cold showers? Yeah, saying, yep. Excellent. And the step challenge, obviously, we've done a random acts of kindness challenge. So there's a range of different things that we do, and some are going to resonate for people and others aren't. But from a workplace perspective, they have made a commitment, the leadership, they have leadership buy-in, they've made a commitment, they have 4 wellbeing days, one wellbeing day a quarter. So they bring all of their team together for a wellbeing day. And last week we had a wellbeing day at the Ramsgate Hotel. And we had Annie Harvey there. I don't know if anyone's heard of Annie Harvey, but she does laughter yoga. So the focus of the last workshop was around eliciting more positive emotions, because we know how good they are for us. And we had Annie come and do that for the team. So that was some fun feedback. All right. Self-managed strategy. So it's really about supporting your people and providing them with as many opportunities, whether that's breath work or meditation or whatever it might be, but to experience that. And then having a structured program in place. I think it's very, very important for that structure to be there. People have busy workloads. If they know that it's coming up, they can manage their time there, and it's ongoing commitment. It's just not an ad hoc workshop. They know that it's very much part of business as usual. So that's a very important part of that. You can see them there. That was on Are You OK Day. We do celebrate that, but obviously that's not just one time a year. That's just everyone there who have tuned in for wherever they were on that day. But they're very open and fantastic in sharing their stories and their vulnerabilities to provide that space for everyone to feel more at ease. All right, so I just wanted to, there we go, there's some more images of them. So we've done a creative process. You can see that larger photo there. So everyone got to have a look using a creative process to see what's on their plate. The smaller circle was, we had a sleep expert who came in from Melbourne. So she came over to speak with the team around sleep behaviour and hygiene and all the science behind sleep. And then we, of course, rolled out that sleep challenge so people were able to put things into practice. We've had some mindfulness and meditation in the Hamaji Gardens, and as a result of the step challenge on that larger circle, the team went and participated themselves in the Adelaide Oval Stomp challenge. So you do about 6,000 steps at Adelaide Oval. But again, I just wanted to show that because it helps to see that even though the step challenge happened inside of work, the team have decided to take that outside of work, and so those ripple effects flow out. And just briefly, one last thing that I wanted to share was as part of the development of their wellbeing program, it's very important to onboard any new team members. Obviously, they've grown from 17 to 26, and so we've had to capture those new team members and bring them into that wellbeing focused culture, which is very important. So one of the things that I've designed, is this induction pack, which is separate to their normal pack. But this is, it shows a huge range of details to bring everyone up to speed. The background, why Stephen wanted to put this in place and how we've done that. We've used the case study that we did earlier last year, showing their current states of wellbeing, so using that graph, and there was some more data that came out of that. I share with them the overarching strategy, so they've got access to that strategy document. They also have access to their mental health and wellbeing policy, so this is something that sits separate to their work health and safety. It's a standalone mental health and wellbeing policy, showing them access to their confidential counselling service, which is being used quite a lot and has been very beneficial for a number of members. Introducing them to their wellbeing champions. They know who they are, and some of those wellbeing champions have had training in mental health first aid, so they're also aware of that. Showing them a planner for what's to come, which is lots of fun for them. Offering those internal resources with creating our own internal wellbeing library, and obviously, like Marty was saying, putting them in touch with some real trusted resources, because we know if we're stressed and we're not sure, we're not thinking so clearly, it's nice to have a go-to, trusted go-to place for resources. And then also my details. And my details are here. So please, I invite you to reach out if you've got any questions or you want to run any ideas you've got for your team past me. I'll be very, very happy to chat with you afterwards, after this, or at any time. So please do reach out. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Look, we're getting near to the end, so I just wanted to digress very quickly. We've got Reggie Martin in the room, a member of the Legislative Council, representing the Attorney-General. I'd like to call on him to address the forum, including obviously Kangaroo Island. We still there, Kangaroo Island? Yep, you can still hear us, hopefully.
Yes, yeah, all good here. We've just had a couple of businesses that have had to go back to their businesses, hence the reduction in numbers in the room.
Yeah, no, that's all right. No, that's fine. So we've had 12 at Kangaroo Island, Reggie, just to let you know. Reggie, being a Member of Parliament, you need to come up here, put your hands by your side and do a bit of a jig, because it's St. Patrick's Day. Would you mind doing that for us?
I would absolutely mind.
Okay, right. Okay. I'd like to welcome Reggie Martin. Thank you.
And Colin is right, it is often dangerous giving a politician a microphone when there's a deadline at 10:30 for a finish as well, so I'll do my best. And thanks, Rebecca, for that. I found that really, really interesting. And I think I could probably do the sleep challenge because I don't drink coffee, so I'd probably be all right with that. But the cold shower challenge, I think that might be a bit step too far. But I think, was it you, Colin, that put your hand up there that you already do that? So must be good for you. Okay, so I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands that we meet on today and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. My name's Reggie Martin and I'm a member of the Legislative Council in the State Parliament. The relevant minister for an event like this would be the Attorney-General, Kyan Ma, but unfortunately he couldn't make it here today, so he's asked me to come in and represent him. And I probably should start by thanking everyone for coming along. I think it's a great initiative and it's great to see so many people coming along, and to have the streaming available for other people as well is a great initiative. One of the reasons Kyan had asked me to come and represent him today is because I have a background in industrial relations. Spent 10 years working in the field, and about 3 or 4 years of that was spent training workplace representatives in occupational health and safety as well. So I have a bit of a background in that. But I should say, when we're asked to represent the minister, they write the speech for us because they're very worried about us going off script and maybe making promises or commitments that they don't want to honour. But I always like to make a few changes. So if there's bits that are really dry and boring, that's from the minister's office. And if there's anything good in here, I'll take credit for that, even if I didn't write it. As a member of the Legislative Council, I was elected as a member for the Labor Party, and after 4 years of opposition, Labor was elected almost exactly 12 months ago. It will be the 12-month anniversary on Sunday. And we entered government with an ambitious agenda, something like 500 different policies, and a number of those were in the area of industrial relations. Consistent with today's theme, many of our policies were developed with the aim of ensuring that people can be safe at work and that they can come home to their families at the end of each day in the same condition that they left for work. And while a lot of our policies have drawn significant media attention, both before and after the election, some have been less focused on by the commentariat, and I would argue that our policies on workplace health and safety have not drawn the attention that they deserve, as they're obviously extremely important and have the dual purpose of being designed to prevent workplace injuries, but also to appropriately manage issues when they do occur. Since forming government, one of the big things that we have done is to commission the former Executive Director of WorkSafe Victoria, Mr John Merritt, to undertake an independent review of our workplace regulator, SafeWork SA. That review was handed to the government in December and made a number of recommendations for changes to SafeWork SA's practices and processes. Those recommendations include a much greater level of cooperation and consultation between SafeWork and stakeholders such as the business community and the union movement, who are at the coalface of workplace health and safety in the community. And while the government is still preparing its response to the report, we have accepted the recommendation and will establish a new advisory committee to SafeWork SA, which will include representatives of business, workers, health and safety professionals and victims of industrial accidents. This committee is intended to help SafeWork coordinate with its important partners to deliver better health and safety outcomes. And we'll also be making changes to the Act to allow SafeWork to provide more information to both workers and businesses about what regulatory actions it's taking so people can be properly informed. One of the most significant recent developments in work health and safety is a renewed focus on psychosocial safety, making sure that people's psychological health is treated as a priority just as much as their physical health. There has been significant work done nationally on this issue, including new regulations under the Workplace Health Act and a new code of practice about how to manage psychosocial hazards in the workplace. While these model codes of practice and regulations have been developed nationally, it's up to each state and territory to bring them into practice. State government will be consulting on these model laws over the coming months with the goal of having South Australia in line with these new national standards by the end of the year, and we encourage anyone with an interest to contribute to that consultation. Another policy that Labor has had for a long time is that around industrial manslaughter. Since the election, we've been consulting with the business community and the union movement on new laws to make industrial manslaughter a criminal offence. These laws will apply where a person has been either reckless or grossly negligent in breaching their duties under the Act, and this behaviour has resulted in the death of a person. Now, it's important to note that these laws recognise that the vast majority of South Australian businesses act in good faith and do the right thing. These laws are only being designed to capture the most egregious failures when people fail to comply with work health and safety laws. Consultation on these laws is ongoing, and we hope to have them introduced into Parliament by the middle of the year. Finally, the Labor government recognises that family and domestic violence is a scourge which requires a whole of society response. The federal government has recently introduced legislation providing up to 10 days of paid family and domestic violence leave for private sector employees to help people escape these terrible circumstances, and we welcome this policy. On a state government level, we're introducing similar legislation into the Parliament, which will provide for 15 days of leave for workers in the public sector or local government, and these will be before Parliament next week. And while I've got the opportunity here and the microphone, I'd like to take the opportunity to pay my thanks to Business Victor Harbour for putting on this event, and to its chair Michael Schubert, and to Executive Officer Colin Shearing. I've known Colin for a number of years, and it was one of the other reasons why I agreed to come today, because Colin is a fantastic advocate for the business community and has done so for a very long time, so you're lucky to have him as part of the organisation. So that's a beer you owe me. it is really good to be here. An event like this does shine the light on the importance of health and safety and well-being within the workplace, which is becoming more and more important, and really want to congratulate you for both putting on the event and for everyone for taking the time out to come along today. It is great to be a part of it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I'd like to wish everyone in the room a successful and prosperous year in the business community. And as a member of the upper house, I don't have a geographical area. My job is to represent the whole state. So while you have David here to help you out, if there's anything that I can do as well, I'm happy to offer my assistance if there's anything that I can do to help you, either with your business or your personal life or social life or neighbours' trees or anything like that. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help, and I'm happy to do so. And once again, thank you for having me along today.
Thank you, Reggie Martin, and yeah, that beer will be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. So we'll get that happening. Again, I just want to bring back Rebecca, if that's all right. Can I bring you back? Because what we want to do is just finish off and network. But as we finish off, we need to do, as a table, our roadmaps. Just share the roadmaps. I think that's the idea. Are we still doing that? Yes. So can someone explain what you'd like us to do, and we'll network at the same time. This is just the opportunity to sort of close off, but do a bit of the networking. We'll show the slide as well. Is that right, for feedback at the end of that activity?
I think if we put the...
Come on. Yeah.
Okay, right. Hello. I know we're coming near the end of the time, but I'm just, while we've got you in the room, it would be great if you could have a look at your roadmap and just jot down a few things. As an individual, but you're quite welcome to share it at a table. But jot down a few things, and if you can come up with 3 actions, that would be wonderful. But at least one action would be great. And so if you just want to spend maybe just 5 minutes just really thinking about your action plan, a couple of actions you want to take, and then if you want to share that with the group, sometimes when we talk to other businesses about what they're doing, it can create ideas as well. And while we're doing that, we'll put up the QR code. We really love your feedback from the session today. So if you've got your phones handy, you just need to, just get your phone out and QR code, and the survey will come up. That'd be great. So thank you. And we'll come back at the end after 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll just allow you to do that. Just give you 5 minutes, and then we'll get back and close the show, and off we go. Thank you. So Kylie and Marty and Rebecca will help you, just give you some hints, I suppose. They'll walk around the room. Thank you. They can't walk around in Kangaroo Island, but hopefully we've sort of wrapped it up. That 5 minutes has gone pretty quickly. Rebecca, Kylie and Marty. Give you 30 more seconds. Okay, everyone, I would like to bring the workshop in the morning to a close. I would like to also announce that Workplace Wellbeing, through Rebecca, there's going to be a lucky person that will receive a health check for the business. Is that right? Valued at $350. So someone in our event today will win that particular prize. So thank you to Workplace Wellbeing, Rebecca. That's a one-on-one service, so thank you very much indeed. Okay, I'd just like to sort of bring the morning to a close very quickly. First of all, I'd like to thank Kangaroo Island. I said there's only one person in the room, and I don't blame you. I mean, businesses have to get out there and get going, and
now there's only one.
there's a couple there.
Hi, Colin. There's actually 3 of us still in the room. So,
there's 3. Excellent.
Yeah, we've enjoyed it immensely, and thanks so much again for setting up the link and allowing us to join remotely. It's been fabulous and very valuable.
Thank you very much indeed, and it's great to have you on board, and also just to understand that you will get all the presentations. I've been asked to repeat that. You will get all the presentations and slides that were available here this morning. And as I kept on saying, YouTube, guess what? It's on YouTube, and we can't get out of it now. It's going to go around the world with all the mistakes and everything else. So that's good. Dan. I'd like to also thank everyone and Kibba in those businesses that have taken time out this morning to be here at this very important event and the first of our workforce planning series here in, yes, thank you, been reminded to do something else. Our workforce planning series part 1. As I said, there'll be half a dozen of those parts to the workforce planning series this year, being held in various, not necessarily just in Victor Harbor. We're looking at doing some regional events as well. There's also going to be awards at the end of the year, the Excellence in Business Awards, which this is really exciting. They used to run them here in Victor Harbor annually, Excellence Awards Business. We're looking a bit more strategically. We didn't run them last year because of COVID. This year, so we decided to put into place a biannual event of Excellence in Business Awards. Now, the exciting thing about this, before we do close, is I'd like to bring up Glenn Fox. Glenn, who is ReturnToWorkSA and happy to be here and lives here. What else? And does wear a tie from time to time. You had to be here, Reggie. It's standing anyway. It doesn't matter. I'd like you to announce what you have to announce, which is pretty exciting for that particular awards. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Return to Work SA and our collaborative partners, which is Wellbeing SA and SafeWork, as part of the Healthy Workplace Collaborative, we wanted to announce a Wellbeing Award as part of the Excellence in Business Awards. So for November 17th in Victor Harbor.
That might change now.
Oh, all right, it might change. It'll be the first of its type, a perpetual award, so that we can recognise the work that businesses do towards healthy workplaces. And what I would do is encourage you to have a look at your roadmap in the months ahead. Just pick 2 or 3 things like Marty talked about. Reflect on what Rebecca said about the benefits that organisations get out of striving for a healthy workplace. And know for us all that it's the difference between surviving and thriving. If you need help along the way, well, there's Rebecca, there's Marty, there's Amanda, there's Huda, there's Paul, etc. And there's things we can do together to give you that support to get better outcomes. So I look forward to seeing you in November and seeing some of you stand on the podium and talk about your healthy workplace achievements. So thank you very much. And thank you.
Yeah, well, that's tremendous news. So, and just letting you know about those Excellence in Business Awards, they were planned to be on the 17th of November, but my news is that schoolies will be run on that weekend, so it might be pretty impossible. And also the week after is the Adelaide 500. So I think we might be trying to look at 1st of December, which is a Friday night. So we're trying to do it as close to November as we can. But we don't want to do it too early in November because we need a bit of time to plan and get that all organised. It's a fairly big, auspicious occasion. It's a black tie event. We've invited the Premier to come along, and he said, well, why are you inviting me so early? I mean, it's so early. I said, well, you have to with the Premier. But I'm sure he's going to do everything, I would say, Reggie, to get here to present those awards, and including the Governor of South Australia. So it's going to be a big black tie event, and I know Business SA will be part of that as well. I'm dobbing you in, Matt. Yeah, thank you. That's good news. Just getting back to the thank yous, and very quickly, and before we do, as a result of today, I've been given this by Kylie. There is the continuation of the roadmap to Workplace Wellbeing. So there's a follow-up session on Thursday the 13th of April for up to 12 businesses in the region. So this is going on YouTube, so who knows who might want to be here. It'll be held at our office where Kylie and Marty will be giving a one-on-one, a very intimate one-on-one to those businesses between the hours of 10:30 and 1:30. at our office in 223 Victoria Street, Victor Harbour. That's a great opportunity. That it'll be free for members. So if you're not a member, and for those on YouTube, if you're not a member, please become a member of Business Victor Harbour. Very important that you do. It's free for you, and it'd be $20 for those who aren't members, just to cover some of the catering for that day. But that looks like a great little event, and this has been run before in Northern Adelaide, I believe, in the Polaris group, and that's been quite successful. So thank you for that. I'd like to thank Marty from Return to Work SA. Where are you, Marty? Thank you for your fantastic effort. Let's oh, well, we can clap along the way. We talked about this at dinner last night, having clappers, but that's fine. We can keep on going. We have Kylie Cox from Wellbeing SA. Thank you, Kylie. Rebecca from Workplace Wellbeing. Thank you. Huda, our timekeeper and vaporiser from Return to Work SA. I'd also like to thank Brenda Champion, who's done a great bit behind the scenes. You haven't met Brenda, but she's been absolutely bloody brilliant. She's been good. Thank you. Amanda from Return to Work SA. Thank you, Amanda, for today. Glenn, thank you, from Return SA. And Paul from SafeWork SA. Thank you, Paul, for being here. But more importantly, Andy from Beyond Blue. I mean, fantastic. That's great for our business. I'd also like to thank Leah Ruby from Department of Industry, Innovation and Science for being here. Thank you. Thank you for helping us. And I know there's going to be some support coming our way. Fantastic. Well done. Keep it going. And also Julie Irwin, who has done quite a bit of work to get this together. Thank you, Julie, and to the Roos Footy Club. I'd like to thank Reggie Martin, representing the Attorney General, and David Basham, member for Finnis, who's gone off. Obviously, he's got some work to do. I'd also like to thank Koa Photography and their little support group they had there here this morning, which was great. It's good that she was here. But thank you all, and I'd like to finally bring up Michael Schubert, my chair, if he could just finally close this particular session, if you don't mind. Guess what? I put you under the hammer. You didn't know this. But I'd just like Michael to say a few words, and we'll end that, and then we can network or go back to our business. Thank you very much for everything.
I don't know how I can really add to that. I think Colin said it all. But just again, on behalf of Business Victor Harbour, thank you very much for giving up your morning to join us today. Check out our website for our upcoming events. There's some posters on each of your tables. So we've got the cyber security event coming up on the 30th of March, which is another breakfast. So you can scan the QR code there to find out more as well. And thank you and goodbye.